Path of Exile 2 early access has been out now for less than 24 hours. I have a long kind of uncut recording video from yesterday coming out, and I played a lot off camera. So I'm currently in Act 2, Saturday now. I've got a 21 warrior, so you can kind of see the stats there. Now I wanted to go through kind of an early build guide as to what I'm trying to do. So one of my favorite archetypes from ARPGs in the past has been the Thorns Bombardment Crusader build in Diablo 3. So I know that there's not, well, I don't know. I think that there's not anything really similar to that in PoE 2 right now, but there is a bunch of thorn nodes on the passives tree in the bottom left. So what I've done is I've kind of gone not straight because I wanted some regen and armor and then the relentless node, and then I came down strength and then took all these plus attributes as strength to thorns. I've got the second cluster I went for was Defender's Resolve. I may even pull this block chance out. I don't know that I need that because then I've gone up for Brutal for stun build up, and then I'm going down for break increased, armor break increase, and I'll show you why. So right now my skill layout is I'm using armor breaker as my filler primary with perfect strike as kind of a damage, a DPS, and some stun buildup. We've got Infernal Cry, Bone Shatter, Shield Charge, and then I don't really use Rolling Slam or Earthquake that much, but I have them here in case I need to use them. Now, on Bone Shatter, I've got Impact Shockwave. Or excuse me, I'm looking at Bone Shatter first. Let's look at Armor Breaker first, because that's my filler. I've got 40% less cost so that I can consistently use. Otherwise, I was having mana issues without. Second, it's going to be Break Endurance. So it's a 20% chance to gain an Endurance charge when supported skills fully break armor. And generally, the rotation I'm going for is to shield charge in and then try to proc as many armor breaks as I can for endurance charges. Now, that's going to do two things for us. One is that our persistent buff is scavenge plating. So when we break, we're going to get armor and thorns. I'm trying to build a thorns archetype as best as I can, just to see if it'll work. So scavenge plating is the way that we're doing that. We're building thorns with armor break. And then we're shield charging in, right? So we're going to get stun build up when we go in, try to farm the armor break, build up some more stun build up with armor breaker. And then we're building also when we break armor with armor breaker because of those skill gems. We're gaining endurance charges. An Infernal Cry, if you look at the tooltip here, it empowers your next melee attack and an additional attack per endurance charge consumed. So there is a little bit of synergy there. I don't know how much it's actually providing, because honestly the best part of Infernal Cry is the fact that they combust, because they become destabilized. And then they have a combustion. When they die, they're going to deal damage in an AoE. Now, we pair that with Bone Shatter, which I have on my W down here. Now, Bone Shatter is when they're primed for stun. You can hit them, and it's going to deal damage and create a shockwave. So what I've done is actually 40% more area effect, magnify effect gem, and impact shockwave, so that when they heavy stun, which we're going to be proccing with Prime for Stun, they're going to create another Aftershock. And if we if we shield charge in and hit with Infernal Cry first, then we start pulling armor, breaking armor. Then when we Bone Shatter, we're not only doing the initial, to my understanding, we're doing the initial shockwave from Bone Shatter, which is an increased effect. We're also doing an additional impact shockwave, plus they're Infernal Cried, so if they die, if they get damaged, they're going to explode again. So we're kind of stacking AoEs. So that's the Bone Shatter, Impact Shockwave, Magnified Effect. On Infernal Cry, the only gem I have currently is Corrupting Cry, so they are going to take a percentage of strength as damage per second physical. Perfect Strike is kind of a filler. It's a lot of damage if you can just perfect hit all the time and ignite for an additional dot. I've got Fire Infusion on it to give it a little bit more fire damage, and Overpower to where it causes more stun buildup. So let's say I'm fighting a boss. If I go in with Shield Charge rather, and it doesn't really get him where I need him, Armor Breaker is really to kind of farm the Armor Break procs, but more stun buildup while I'm waiting for the Shield Bash to come off cooldown, or Shield Charge to come off cooldown, would be my Perfect Strike. Shield Charge, what we're running is Stomping Ground, so it's going to cause shockwaves as we run in. A little bit, I think it does a little bit of stun buildup. We can check. Deals strength as physical damage. It doesn't say if it does build up, so I'm not actually sure. I'm not using Shockwave Totem, although it is really good. I used it to level a little bit, but I'm not using it in the current rotation. Earthquake I do have kind of as an emergency DPS button. So I've got Earthquake with Fist of War. So it'll ancestrally boost once every 6 seconds. And honestly, that's okay for what I'm using it for, because I don't find myself using it that much, that when I do, it's boosted. And then fast forward so they have a less duration so that we can just kind of push all that damage. The way I understand it is it's pushing all that damage in a 30% less duration and proccing the Jagged Earth after proccing the Jagged Earth quicker. Rolling Slam I have, but I'm not using. I have Jagged Ground on the Rolling Slam. And for Scavenge Plating, I have Persistence because it doesn't add an additional Spirit Reservation. So it's just 120% cost multiplier, of which there is no cost, but 40% more duration. So we have our Scrap Armor for longer. So that in general is the build. I have gone through the passives tree, but I'll pull that up again. Basically, first is I came around for Relentless. Second, I got on the highway for Thorns. And I'm not saying this is perfect, but this is what I did. Third, I went for Defender's Resolve. And then fourth, I'm going up here for Reverberating Impact. Now, all this, you should note that I am not a veteran of PoE 1 or 2. I actually I've watched nothing on PoE 2. It's a total blind playthrough if you didn't watch the long VOD, which I don't blame you. So let's go and see how this build works. Let's see if we can get a couple procs. And the gear is nothing special. I actually have pretty much nothing. I have one unique. I have Legion Stride Rough Greaves. Everything else is just blues. It does not matter. You could probably make it better. Okay, so we've got a little pack here. Let's get them kind of out in the open. So my general rotation would just be E in, Q, and then proc the W for the Bone Shatter. So it's charge in, War Cry. I'll not say the buttons. Bone Shatter on small packs like that, where they're going to be pretty easy. You can also, if you want, let's get this group. If you need a little bit more survivability for a pack, that's kind of a quick clear. This is a little stronger group, actually. If I go in, Q, and then I start armor procking, you can see I've got like 4 stacks plus 1 endurance charge, and they died anyway. But if they had a little more health, and see, once you get an armor break, I would stop using armor breaker, because you're better off filling your damage somewhere else. So there are probably some improvements that could be made to the build, but in general, it clears pretty well. It feels pretty good. See, armor break and then perfect strike, ignite. Perfect strike could do a little bit more damage, but that's kind of where we're at. So that's going to be the day 1, less than 24 hours. How long has it been? It's been about 20 hours since launch, and I did actually sleep last night, so I haven't been at this all night. 21 warrior. Right at the beginning of Act 2, you could reliably have this build kind of in play. Good survivability, good damage, decent mob clear. That's what we're looking at. So I'm going to play some more of this off stream, and if I have more build videos, I'll put them up here.